Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thanks for joining me today. So today I am going to do my interpretation of the astrology in the year ahead for 2023. I'm going to start off with, as the usual, an introduction to sort of lay the sort of appearance of what I see the astrology as, just generally speaking, and then I'll go into each of your ascendants and or sun signs as to what I feel is important for you in 2023. Now, interestingly, I am making this video just prior to that total full moon lunar eclipse that will be happening on the 8th of November 2022. So if you're listening to this early on, and when I publish this, which will probably be after, the publishing of this will be after the eclipse for sure. Just FYI, it does take a few days to process these videos. It's not just you make it and put it on YouTube. So I will discuss what I feel has happened, etc., at that eclipse and the fallout from it and potential meaning in the future in my December monthly video. All right, so let's get straight to it. Now, I personally feel, as an overarching sort of not theme, but sort of feeling of this 2023, we've got a lot of planets that are changing signs. And I feel that this 2023 could actually be a very positive year, just generally speaking from a collective level, where we actually see big changes happening that are positive. And then, of course, that translates down to an individual level. And I'll cover all that, as I said, in the individual signs. All right, so let's start going into some of the shifting in the ingresses. So when we talk about an ingress, we're just talking about a planet going into, ingressing, into a sign. So that's what we mean when we say that. So let's start off with Jupiter. So when we look at Jupiter, Jupiter's a 12-year cycle. So every 12 years, Jupiter's going to come around, right, to whatever sign it is in at that time. Now, Jupiter will go back into Aries towards literally the last few days of 2022, but it'll be fully in Aries starting in January 2023, right the way through mid-month of May 2023. So it's really just there for just under half the year. Certainly if you've got your Jupiter in Aries, you know, this is what's called your Jupiter return year. It's a very lucky year. Like Saturn, Jupiter tends to leave its big gifts and benefits towards the end of when it's finishing off in the sign, not necessarily at the beginning. Sometimes with Jupiter, what happens is events happen or things happen to you that are also unexpected, but somehow shift something for you, especially in terms of where you're supposed to be growing, right? Jupiter as an essence and an influence is really asking us, wherever it is in your chart by transit, to grow there, to expand ourselves, especially from a higher standpoint, right? But it can be like Santa Claus and bring you lots of gifts and benefits. All right, so for those that do have Jupiter in Aries, enjoy that first 6 months or so of 2023. And then, of course, Jupiter goes into Taurus. And this, I think, really will smooth over a lot of Taurians and Taurian ascendances' feathers for not only the rest of 2023, so it's mid-May. It's actually the 17th of May, 2023, Jupiter will ingress into Taurus. And it will stay there till the 25th of May, 2024. I just see this as a really positive influence, not only for Taurians and Taurian ascendants, but for sure for those folks that have been going through Uranus upsets, changes, and just real surprising things popping out of the woodwork. This Jupiter coming in here should really smooth things over and make things just a lot better, bring benefits where there were none, maybe even bring in some money for those folks that need that too, and really maybe help you grow in this area, generally speaking. We take it to a collective level. We're really looking here at growth probably in our money markets and maybe specifically in the real estate, Now, I mentioned in a previous video that there's going to be potentially in November 2022, that line in the sand where in the real estate market and maybe even in investments, things are going to take a little bit of a turn where there's a readjustment. But this now Jupiter going into Taurus has us maybe literally building more things. Construction could start increasing at this time because, of course, Taurus is the master builder, right? But certainly crops and that sort of thing could take on some new type of growth spurt where maybe we're looking differently at the way we grow our food. And certainly just from a standpoint of Jupiter being international, there may be some need for growth internationally regarding food and foodstuffs, right? Especially from mid-May onwards into, the end of May, basically 2024. But anyway, for all those Taurians, this could be something absolutely fabulous for you. And if I were to pick a month, I would pick May 2023 as a really outstanding month with regards to real solid, when we look at Taurus, it's a very solid sign. It moves slowly. It likes to get things right. It's persistent. And so we've got other things happening that will be, reinforcing this whole Jupiter in Taurus. And that's going to be, we're going to have a full moon that's going to be happening towards the end of May. But we also have an eclipse. Actually, it's a new moon, but there's a full moon that's going to happen in Scorpio, also in May. And a full moon, of course, says that the sun's going to be in Taurus. So I'd say May time period, there could be some big shifts on a collective level as well as from an individual level for those certainly that are Taurus or Taurus ascendances. So when we go up and look at Saturn, Saturn's also going to be changing signs. It's going to ingress into Pisces. And so I think this is beautiful too. If we look at Pisces operates at a very high level with regards to really our spiritual outlook on life, looking at things very compassionately. On the extreme end, martyrdom could come up. So there has to be care taken with regards to feeling you're under this obligation. So that's kind of on the negative side. This Saturn in Pisces could say you're obligated to do this. And certainly if you have something that aspects your chart, you might want to, think about that. It's great to be able to contribute to charities and to offer your services, but at the same time, you have to balance your life, right? And bring your own spirituality in to benefit you too. Now, of course, at this time, we're also going to have Neptune is still in Pisces too. So we've got these both out of the planets here, really pulsating away. They're not conjunct in 2023, and so they're operating separately, but they're still influencing spirituality, compassion, charity, that type of thing. Now, the other thing I thought with this Saturn in Pisces was also, Pisces can also rule that realm of drugs and alcohol and just living in a fantasy world too, right? And I thought I love this Saturn in here because it's going to be bringing a reality check. And my hope is that we're going to have some real treatments available for those folks, either from a psychiatric standpoint and or maybe drugs and alcohol, where we're going to see some real progress and some more permanent structures in place that can actually assist those that need it in those areas. I felt very optimistic about that. Now, Saturn takes, in terms of a cycle, Saturn is a 30-year cycle. So every 30 years, approximately, it will be coming round. So in 30 years' time, from 2023, it'll come round again into Pisces. But it won't have Neptune there. And Saturn is about a 2.5-year cycle. So we know that from 2023, we're going to have Saturn in Pisces for about 2.5 years, influencing that sign. So certainly for Pisces that maybe needed some structure, or Pisces ascendants, needed maybe some structure into their lives, this could be your answer, where, or you get some more permanent things happening in whatever area of your life is coming up with the Saturn influence, right? So Saturn ingresses into Pisces on the 8th of March, 2023, till mid-February 2026. And what's interesting in that time period where it ends being in Pisces, February 2026, we'll just at that time also have Neptune going into Aries. And I'll talk about that at a later time. That I see as the spiritual warrior, Neptune going into Aries. So if we look at the last time, certainly that we had Saturn here into Pisces, it was in February 1994. So certainly you can look back to see what was going on in February 1994 and for the 2+ years that it stayed in Pisces, and see maybe what themes came up for you, or maybe what structures were put in place, maybe even new responsibilities that you had. So some folks, it'll be maybe you got married, or you had your first child or second child, and that child now 30 years later is making their own way in life. As always, I love to hear from people, especially with long transits like this, 30-year transits. It's always useful to hear people comment, because you never know when you're actually helping somebody else, not just giving information, but helping other people that are viewers on my channel. So, in terms of what aspects Saturn may be causing from a positive and negative standpoint over its 2.5-year period in Pisces, we have squares that will be going to both Gemini and Sagittarius. So Saturn will be, at some point providing some challenges, but I always say those challenges are just asking you to think outside the box for Geminis and Sagittarius. For Virgos, of course, this is going to be an opposition for you. So, and I'll talk about this as an individual signs, but just generally speaking, it could have you having to deal with superiors, rules and regulations. Now for Cancers and Scorpios, we've got a trine happening here with Saturn. So if you've got your ascendant, sun, or a big conglomeration of planets, which I have in either Cancer or Scorpio, you can expect some real assistance here that you've not seen for 30 years with regards to either, rules and regulations working for you, or you setting down structures in your life that really work to support you, right? Those trines are there to support you. And so that's a good thing, right? Now, when we look at two other signs, we look at Taurus and Capricorn. There are sextiles that are formed to your sign with this Saturn in Pisces. And so this is a little lighter in terms of influence compared to a trine, but it provides you opportunities, should you choose to accept them. What are those opportunities? It could be opportunities to work with more senior people. It could be opportunities for you to put structures down in your life, but you have a choice. Do you want to do it or not? It could literally have, especially some Taurians, building things at this time where you get the green light to build your own home or to renovate your own home as well. But Capricorns will also have opportunities here too. It can also be new responsibilities. This may also be happening to some Taurians and Capricorns, where you have to take on additional responsibilities in your life. And this doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? It could be something like somebody gets pregnant and you have this welcome child that is now a potential in your life at this time. All right, moving down to Pluto. So Pluto is probably, Saturn's big too, but Pluto, really is a long-acting thing here. That's well over 250 years. We'll just leave it at round figures, but it's over 250 years in terms of it coming around to come into your chart again. So for the vast majority of people, if not all people, Pluto going into Aquarius is a once-in-a-lifetime thing in your lifetime, right? And so this happens on the 24th of March, 2023 to 2044. So it's a pretty long influence that we have here. I just see this as very positive too. Pluto going into Aquarius is really having us transforming a whole lot of things that are Aquarian. At its base, it will be transforming society and bringing it to a higher level. Enlightenment of how we should be treating each other is going to transform, right? I'm going to be more positive with regards to people being treated more equally here. But Aquarius also rules literally outer space and anything scientific. So I would say there's going to be great progress and great transformation with regards to our understanding of not only outer space, but science and anything in that realm that we don't know about yet. We're going to be enlightened over those years between 2023 and 2044. So stay tuned for what stuff we've not seen yet, right? Literally, we've not seen yet. That will help transform our world. Now, previously, a significant time period where we had Pluto in Aquarius was kind of around what was called a period of enlightenment. It was the US and French Civil War. I've already done a video on Pluto ingressing into Aquarius. I'll put the link down here below, and I went through all the sun signs and ascendants as well. I think you'll really enjoy it. I really tried to dig into some significant history as well to help people understand, at least get an idea of what might be ahead for you. Now, in terms of what effect this is going to have on different signs, Pluto going into Aquarius, first and foremost, is going to be opposing Leo ascendants, Leo suns, conglomeration of planets in Leo, but it really takes its time. So, I mean, Pluto in 2023 will barely get into 0 degrees and some minutes of Aquarius. It's really not going to be to the following year, 2024, 2025, that we really have Pluto exerting the effect. But make no mistake about it, my analysis tells me that we are going to see some big changes in 2023 with regards to how people are in our society are treated, right? There's going to be a bigger emphasis on fairness and tangibly being able to see that, right? Okay, so for you, Leo, this is going to have an effect of you having to deal with things probably from a standpoint of your partner. I'll get into it in your sun sign, but we'll just leave it at that. Now, when we look at squares, we're looking at a square to Taurus and, of course, to Scorpio. Now, as I said, this takes a long time for Pluto to start exerting effects. So unless you've got something at 0 degrees, or 1 degree, let's take it to there, the next few years will not be affected by squares or oppositions with Pluto at this time, right? And I'll continue to cover this over the years, of course, and bring things more into focus for you. And of course, there's always other things going on in the universe. It's not just this direct effect. Pluto at its core likes to transform things, and it also likes to illuminate the truth, right? Yeah. All right, so it forms some lovely trines to both Gemini and Libra. Okay, so this also is going to be bringing in some beautiful energy for both those signs with regards to transformation. And I'll cover a little bit more detail in each of your signs later on in the video. But this is positive energy again for transformation. So it just, with a trine, especially with a powerful planet like Pluto that likes to transform things, it will bring to Geminis and Librans just an easier, more satisfying, I guess, energy of transformation. It'll be easier to transform whatever it is that you need to transform over those many years. All right, we'll leave it at that for Pluto. All right, so the other thing that happens, of course, we have the north nodes, which currently, as I'm making this video, are still in Taurus, and they will remain into Taurus, for a little while into 2023. They actually change signs and go into Aries, which of course is the first sign of the zodiac, on the 18th of July, 2023. So certainly this is going to affect anybody that has their own north nodes in Aries. But as a sign, of course, Aries will be at the forefront with regards to changing destiny paths at this point. And it all depends, of course, what you have in Aries. But certainly the folks that have their north nodes in Aries will be very much affected by this. And of course, the opposite sign, which is Libra, is where the south nodes will be. So both Libra and Aries will have a direct effect over the next 1.5 years, from approximately mid-July to 2023. That's how long the nodes, the transiting nodes, stay in a sign. And importantly, the nodes, different than planets, they start at 29 degrees. So there's 30 degrees in every sign, right? And so the north nodes always start at the end of a sign and then go backwards. So in July 2023, those north nodes going into Aries will start at 29 degrees and then make their way back over a 1.5 years to come up to 1 degree and 0 degrees of Aries. So certainly I'm wishing a new wonderful destiny path opening up for those folks that do have their north nodes in Aries. And don't forget, we still have Chiron in Aries too. So there may be links for some people with true healing at this time, right? In terms of changing your destiny. Yeah. And I can cover that more. As I said, this is just more of an overview for folks. All right, so when we look at any of the retrogrades that are happening in 2023, obviously there's Mercury retrogrades. We've got 3 of them going on. That's typical. We can have more than that in a year, but in this year it's 3 of them. But notably, we have a Venus retrograde that's going to be happening, and it's in Leo. Now, Venus will be in Leo starting in June 2023, right the way through the first week of September. So this really covers that whole period of the summer period, right? And the summer period in many ways, especially like August time period, which is the height of summer, is really represented by the sign of Leo too. But the other thing that Leo represents is true love. It represents children. And individually, it represents our own business. And it asks us to be our authentic self. It gives us potential opportunities for anything creative as well. But the other thing that it covers is royalty. So typically we look at Leo and royalty being covered by that sign. And so I thought from a collective level that we could see between June and September 2023 some kind of big changes and developments with regards to royalty. Now this is a Venus retrograde, so I saw this as a number of things. Certainly when we talk about royalty, a lot of times the first thing we think of is British royalty. And for sure, we already know that this is going on with King Charles. But this time period of June to September, we'll see him changing a lot of things in royalty and the crown. There will be a lot of things that he changes up that will probably be more manifested and put into effect in September 2023. I thought with this Venus, I thought this could actually be some planned changes for those royalty that actually are females at this time. So I saw that as 2 things, British royalty as well as royalty that has females prominent at this time. There may be some changes there as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with the monarch or the queen. There could be other women that are very much influenced in here in royalty where there will be some changes. Hopefully, all positive changes. All right, the Mercury retrogrades, the first one that we have happen in 2023 is a Mercury retrograde in Taurus. So again, we're featuring Taurus here again, right? And this is going to start on the 21st of April at 15 degrees of Taurus. And it will go direct on the 15th of May, awfully close to that Jupiter going into Taurus, right? At 5 degrees of Taurus. So this Mercury retrograde in Taurus stays in Taurus. Sometimes it changes signs, and I'll talk about that Mercury retrograde in a minute. So this could have just some of us, this could have a reconsideration on a global level regarding our money markets again, right? Foodstuffs as well. There may have to be some kind of reorganization with regards to getting foodstuffs together during this time period, April to May 2023. But certainly for Taurians, this will directly affect you as well, especially if you've got something around the 15 or 5-degree mark of Taurus. We also have a new moon, supporting this Mercury retrograde going direct. And that's going to be a few days later. The new moon in Taurus at 20. So it's just a new moon, not an eclipse. 28 degrees of Taurus happens on the 19th of May. So again, this whole time period of May 2023, I think is a big, huge time of money changes, food types things, construction, in some respects, our security of ourselves, and the earth that we live on, right, may come up for some kind of important review isn't the right word, but importance that we have to take care of, right? All right, so the next Mercury retrograde we have happen is going to be on the 23rd of August, and that will be staying in Virgo, starting at 21 degrees of Virgo, and then it'll go direct at 8 degrees of Virgo on the 15th of September. Now, classically, we have Mercury retrogrades being a little more important if the Mercury retrograde happens in a sign that rules it. And that, of course, is Virgo and Gemini. So we know that the 23rd of August right through the 15th of September 2023, that Mercury retrograde is going to be important with regards to anything to do with communications, messaging, can be contracts as well. I say with the Virgo, get all your details correct and double check anything to do with contracts and that. Should you have to be signing something, say you've taken on a new job or something, or buying a house or something, that Mercury retrograde asks you to make sure you look at the details, right? The next Mercury retrograde is going to be in Capricorn. And of course, we had a Mercury retrograde happen the end of December, or start at the end of December 2022 too. So Capricorn, you're going to be hit here again by another Mercury retrograde in 2023. That starts at 8 degrees of Capricorn on the 13th of December 2023 and goes direct, but this time it's in Sagittarius. It goes direct at 22 degrees of Sagittarius on the 2nd of January 2024. And we also have with that Mercury retrograde going direct at 22 degrees of Sagittarius being in a fire sign, it will trine the north nodes, certainly in Aries at that time. So that's the 2nd of Jan 2024. So it's interesting, we've got those two signs highlighted here towards the end of the year and early next year, 2024. So check to see, again, 8 degrees of Capricorn or 22 degrees of Sagittarius. This may actually affect you directly. Okay, I think that kind of wraps up what I have to say with regards to an introduction to 2023. Again, I want to leave this with the fact that I feel this is a very positive year for us and that we've got a lot to look forward to that's going to be positive for all of us. But especially for society as a whole healing and society as a whole having a better fairness to and for everyone. All right, so next I'm going to start with our individual signs. And because this is a start of a new year forecast. All right, Taurus, I know there's been some Taurians that have struggled with a lot of big changes and surprises over the past few years, with Uranus, of course, being in your sign, just changing things up, removing things from your life, etc. Now, obviously, Uranus is still going to be staying there and will be operating there for a few more years. But do remember, as things exit your life and surprising things happen, good or bad, that Uranus is only there to help you get to where you need to be. And it's just really trying to help you by doing that. And it tends to do that quickly and suddenly, for good or for ill. All right. So lucky you, Taurus, you have Jupiter going into Taurus mid-May. And that's awesome. That's going to bring you benefits expansion in that area of your life. You're just going to feel better. You may have a lot of inspiration to maybe put things down in your life that you've wanted to put down in your life, in terms of developing your life a little better, where it seems that you can now move forward with your life. I guess that's the overarching message I got when I looked at all the stuff happening, certainly in Taurus, especially as Jupiter goes in there. There could be teachers come in, advisors come in that are really a benefit for you. And if I were to pick a month, I would pick the month of May 2023 as being outstandingly positive for Taurus. Why? First of all, you've got, as I mentioned, Jupiter going into your sign mid-May, right the way through 2024, by the way. But you also have an eclipse that's happening, a full moon eclipse that's going to be happening in Scorpio. A full moon says the moon is in one sign, but the sun is in the other. So the sun will be in Taurus at that time, activating things as well. And even though it's a full moon, it can bring about changes for sure, and endings and culminations in May. But it's an eclipse. It can also bring in a whole bunch of new things, and especially coupled with Jupiter at the same time. You could have some unusual turnarounds happen that are of great benefit to you, Taurus. The other thing that you have happening in May 2023 is that Mercury, which has started retrograde in April in your sign, Taurus, will mid-May, just before this whole time period, will have it going forward again. And so, when we have the new moon at the 28th degree mark of Taurus on the 19th of May, so it's not an eclipse, that new moon, you won't have the Mercury retrograde. Yeah, sure, it'll be in shadow, but it will be out of the retrograde part of it. So that's really positive. That new moon on the 19th of May may be a seminal moment for a lot of Taurians, because you're going to have Jupiter in there too, right, in the mix. And of course, Uranus will be hanging around as well. You're going to have a final full moon eclipse, Taurus, that is going to be happening at 5 degrees of Taurus. And of course, the sun will be at 5 degrees of Scorpio on the 28th of October. And this marks the end of the eclipses being in your sign or in Scorpio. So it's a real tie-up also. So this is the 28th of October. Wow, that's awfully close to November too. So I would say also October and November could be significant for some Taurians as well, as a real wrap-up. You finally put that bow on that present or whatever, and you really feel that, okay, all the stuff I've been through over the past few years, I can now put aside and actually move forward with where I really need to go to. And certainly for those Taurians that have something around the 5 degree mark, that will be an important eclipse for you. But like I said, the important thing is for Taurians is that the eclipses making all those changes for you will at least subside now once we have that final eclipse on the 28th of October. So I really feel that for Taurians, 2023 is going to be a final wrap-up year. But that final wrap-up where you can really sort of, dust things off and say, okay, I don't have to deal with that anymore, is really going to come towards the latter part of 2023 with that final eclipse. That's what I see. So Taurus, you also have a Saturn in Pisces. And of course, this forms a lovely sextile with your sign, and it's in the 11th house. So this is going to, for the next 2.5 years, really provide you with opportunities to, say, work with friends, take advantage of opportunities they are offering you, as well as the groups that you belong to. May bring in some, for some it could bring in some responsibility. So friends, for whatever reason, there may be some additional responsibilities you have to take on somewhere over the next 2.5 years that somehow affect a friend or friends and the groups that you belong to. I mean, you could gain some kind of say, seniority in a group that you belong to, and maybe you're asked to take on some additional responsibilities that you actually welcome, right? So that could happen too. The other thing is the 11th house does cover, for those folks that have their own business, for instance, the 11th house represents the income that you earn from that. So I saw Saturn here as a couple of things. Saturn here could bring in better structure for you with regards to the money that you're making through your own business. But it can also bring in, maybe because you've got better structure regarding the money that you're making in your own business, more longevity, where you actually see that this new structure that you're putting in place, maybe you're going to get an accountant or something like that, that you actually produce more money as a result of it. But it can also put responsibilities in there regarding that money that you're making too, right? So I guess it could go either way, but I would say is follow rules and regulations for those folks that have their own business, and seek out, if you need to, get some advice from perhaps somebody who's older and more wise if you do need it. But with the sextile, you're going to be given some lovely opportunities where friends may bring in something that is of benefit for you. Now, when we look at Pluto and Aquarius, this squares your sign, Taurus, and it's in your 10th house of career. Basically, that's what the 10th house is. And so I saw this as a few things. For sure, Taurians, I would encourage you. Now, this is a long-term transit, right? So this is going to be right the way through from 2023 to 2044. So this isn't something that's necessarily going to happen overnight. So maybe take 2023 to get that, 50,000-foot view of your career and look at how your career has evolved over the past while and look at it more objectively, kind of like a third person, and really look at what's working for you in your career and what is not, because this is your opportunity to change it and transform it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here for you to transform aspects of your career. Now, for some folks, this may materialize with you starting a whole second career that you want to replace your whole career. So you may have this challenge with the square of trying to do your day job and maybe doing another job that you really want to do, but you haven't got enough money from it. And so that could be some of the square challenges that could be brought in here. For others, some Taurians may actually gain some power in their career and have challenges with regards to maybe dealing with people underneath you, accepting some of the decisions that you make. It's not all negative. I mean, certainly when someone gains power over other people that they did not have before, people don't necessarily say, sure, no problem, I'll listen to what you have to say. And for others, it may just be that you have to learn how to use power in your career, right? And again, that could go back to people in power, existing in power right now for you, that's Pluto, can maybe assist you. But that it's a challenge for you to be able to incorporate this new position that you may have. So I hope that puts a little bit perspective on Pluto for you. I will continue to talk about this throughout the months and years as well. Take care of yourself, Taurus. All right, everybody, that wraps up this video. Thank you for listening. I want to thank all my viewers, both my viewers as well as my listeners on Spotify. I really appreciate all your support by coming to my channels. It makes a big difference in what I can give and do for you. But I want to put out a special thanks for my clients all this year. You've made a difference to me making better videos. I've been able to purchase better equipment to bring, a better quality of video to you. Hopefully you've noticed that. All right, I'm wishing everyone a great 2023. I'm very optimistic for it. A lot of things are going to be cleared up and a lot of things being put in place that'll benefit all of us. If you want your chart done, of course, I would love to do it. It's an ideal time to do it. end of the year or the beginning of the next year. Bye for now, everybody. Sending you lots of love and lots of positive energy for a great 2023. Bye for now.